What is going on, my peeps? Your man Versatile is back after hours with episode 29 of Versatile After Hours. Yes, this is a visual and audio podcast where we talk about a ton of things, majority tech. In this episode, we are talking about the Galaxy S21, my 2 days later or 48 hours later, first impressions, what I think about the phone, and we might even touch briefly on the fact that this is the official end of the Note series. You know, I got to rub it in just a little bit. So if you guys haven't already, if you are interested in the visual podcast, make sure you guys subscribe here on YouTube. And if you are interested in the audio podcast, then you can catch it on your favorite podcast platform. Now, let's get into the video. And the Galaxy S21. What a fantastic phone. I said it in my comparison video, which was probably going to drop after this video. But compared to the Galaxy S20, I love the flat display. Like, if you want to talk about one of the most notable things that's different, is that we get a nice flat display, 1080p, 120 refresh rate, variable refresh rate display, and it is amazing. The colors are amazing, even on natural. I do natural because I do a lot of photo editing on my phone, so I don't do the vividness. It distorts accuracy, so that's why I rock natural. And the fact that it's still beautiful is a testament to Samsung's display prowess in terms of their technology. The second glaring I guess you could say that I have with that is the fact that it reminds me of the Essential phone for whatever reason. I love the Essential phone. If you guys remember me having that phone, reviewing it, I love the screen. The screen was, but this screen is just a better version of that screen. Essential phone was one of the first phones to do the punch hole full screen, and this just reminds me of that, and it looks so good. And now, of course, I'm rocking a mainly black wallpaper, but it's amazing. The third thing is this color on the back, which is this phantom gray. I wish they had the phantom black for these as well, but this phantom gray is more than pleasing to the eye and to the touch. I like the matted feel. I don't think there'll be too much issues in terms of fingerprints or really losing the paint on here. I don't think so. Seeing that it's polycarbonate as well, being plastic, I also have not noticed that much of a difference between the two outside of weight. I prefer this color and this feel over this glossy sky blue. The S21 is where it's at. Now, one of the things that I've also noticed in terms of using this phone is battery life. I don't use my phone the same way I used to when I had the S20, at least for the first 3 months of last year. And, you know, preceding that, or before that, preceding that. I use my phone a lot throughout the day because I worked at a day job, so it was easy for me to really test screen on time. Now I don't have the opportunity to test screen on time like that, and yet my first day after my first full charge, I still was able to finish the day with like 4.5 to 5 hours of screen on time. But for me, it's never necessarily about the screen on time anymore. It's about how long can the phone stay alive, and that phone stayed alive about 15 to 16 hours. That's what's important to me, is can my phone withstand most of the day when I actually need it? Can it be there for me? Screen on time not as big of a deal, and now I know that working a job where I can't be on the screen. As long as my phone is good on standby or whatever, I'm straight. Samsung has really done an impressive job with the battery life on this phone. They both have the same size battery at 4,000 milliamps, but now I use my phone a little bit differently, and I haven't really noticed a difference negatively in terms of battery life on the S21. I thoroughly appreciate that. This phone being lighter is also kind of interesting, because now that it's in my pocket, I forget it's in my pocket, because this has a little bit more weight to it, being that it's all glass and metal, whereas you got glass, metal, and polycarbonate on here, which lightens the load. I don't want to use a case like that because I love the design of the phone. That's the tough part. Now, is this case solid? Yes, it's a speaking case, of course, but again, I'm back to kind of wanting to rock my phone bare despite me being in a more active job, as long as I got my pocket secured and it doesn't fall out. And over the years, especially the last few years, I really noticed I've been much more cognizant of where my phone has been. So me rocking this phone bare, I'm not gonna have an issue. One of the other things I have noticed that I also appreciate that Samsung changed and improved is the camera aesthetic. Compared to the S20, the S21's camera looks so much more better, looks more sophisticated, part of the body, which it is. It literally is part of the metal frame before it raises here. Whereas here, it was its own standalone, basically, module area. I like what they done here. They separated the flash from the actual camera module as well, and it just really looks pleasing to the eye. Hopefully, they'll just kind of beef out the back and it's flush, because I think we would all appreciate that as well. And a slightly thicker phone means slightly bigger battery. I'm thinking they're gonna increase the size from 4,000 to like maybe 4,300 to 4,500 next year for the S22 or whatever they're gonna call it. But for the most part, again, physically, phone amazing. Battery life wise, phone is amazing. But what also is amazing that I will be dropping a video on soon as well is One UI 3.1. The S20 only has One UI 3 right now, but One UI 3.1 really shores up a lot of little nuances that 3 didn't, which essentially was just the tuning of like the quick settings and some of the other little settings within the phone. I noticed that 3.1 really does those improvements. The cameras also perform better. I wouldn't say it's like a big difference between the S20, but I will say that it is better on here. I heard skin smoothing not as much of an issue this year with the S21. That will be put through its paces in one of my camera test videos. But again, the software on this phone, amazing. One UI 3.1 is so good on this phone. If I open it up here, the fingerprint sensor is a little bit faster, which is also good. But in terms of settings, one of the things I also noticed is that within device care, I believe it's with One UI 3.1, they've added a device protection. So in conjunction with McAfee, I don't know if my camera actually focused on it, but in conjunction with McAfee, now you can scan your phone to check for malware and, you know, funny business going on. And so I like that neat feature. You don't have to actually download the app. You have the option to do so, but you can just hit scan phone right there. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes at most, and it'll scan through all your apps that you have on your phone to see if anything is out of place. And that is something I thoroughly enjoy. Now, the price is what makes this phone even more appealing at $800. You can't beat $800. This phone was $1,000 last year. $800 and you get a better experience. Who can hate on that, right? This phone is solid at $800. 5G works very well on here. 5G is also improved over the S20 in terms of being able to do aggregation between two different networks, 5G networks, to give you better throughput, speeds, and all that. Better phone all the way around. It's sometimes I'm speechless, because sometimes I just like stand at the screen and being like, man, this is a nice phone. Samsung did their thing with the S21, S21 Plus, and S21 Ultra. My thing, has Samsung peaked? And Samsung absolutely peaked in terms of the S line, because now that the S line has the S Pen, I would say next year, the year after that, they'll find a way to actually integrate the pen into the body, into the chassis for the phone. And then at that point, of course, as well, has Samsung peaked in terms of phones? The only thing they can do now is improve software, of course, and improve the cameras. Aesthetically, the phones always look good, always look nice. And it's a phone that you want to hold, if not play with, and look at, because the screen technology is so good. But my question is, has Samsung peaked in terms of the S line? Thus, the reason why they're investing so much in the foldable line. That makes sense to me, to invest in the foldable line, because that's where they can do more interesting, different things. It can tinker way more with the foldable line than the S line, because now the S line is their bread and butter outside of the new premium line in the foldables. The S line with the S Pen now, with the hardware being where it's at, with the software with One UI 3.1 being so finely tuned, what's next? I feel like the only thing they can do is plateau in a positive sense, in that they just remain consistent, and as long as they don't dip, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's all I can think of when it comes to what can Samsung do next. And I guess it's also maybe continue to add whatever type of 5G technologies and features into the phones at the better pricing. But again, it's like, what else can they really do given that the S21 is really showing up how well they did this year? And that's just me using this phone after 2 days. Will I feel this way in the days going forward? We'll see. But for the most part, this phone is a beast. I love the fact that with One UI 3.0 and of course 3.1, they have this feature called enhanced processing, and it does supposedly take a hit on your battery life. Maybe you'll see it right there in my quick settings, but it's supposed to like tap into more of the CPU and allow it to process more and I think process faster at the expense of battery life. I haven't really noticed it hit the battery life. With the S20 on One UI 3.0, this phone being mainly on standby often throughout the day, I mean, I've lost 5% in a matter of like 8 hours or something like that with enhanced processing on. Now, of course, it's not processing anything, but it also shows you how well they've tuned One UI to not drain battery while it's on standby, or basically while the screen's off. That's something that I also very, very much so appreciate in terms of what they're doing with their phones and their software. Samsung has come a long way between TouchWiz and the Samsung Experience, or Samsung One UI. So there's not too much else I can really say right now. Good Lock is also improved on here just recently. As of yesterday, they updated Home Up, Multi-Star, and I believe maybe one more. I mean, Keys Cafe catches relatively frequent updates, but with those two modules, you can even customize your phone more, which is why you've seen my phone with no icon labels, and that's part of Home Up. And you can also customize the share menu to organize that better. They finally updated those modules to work on One UI 3, so the S20 also works with it, my Z Flip works with it, and of course the S21 finally works with it. Very, very, very solid. Very, very solid phone. So now, outside of this, you know, with the week later review and somewhere in between basically this video and that video, I will be dropping a dedicated camera test and a dedicated video test for this. And within the video test, I will try to process, well, it's going to be hard to show you 8K because I can't render in 8K and I don't have a TV to output the 8K. So in terms of 8K, I'm not going to be able to show you that. All I can do is basically kind of talk about it and my experience trying to use it on the phone. But what I will do is drop 2 different videos for the video, one being at 1080p and one being at 4K, so that way you can actually see the difference there, because I can't show you 1080p and 4K in the same video because I have to render them at one or the other. So in terms of videos, you're basically gonna get like 2 videos. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them yet. I might just showcase me using it in different ways with the steady shot on and off, you know, 4K 60, 4K 30 or something like that. Maybe I'll use some type of gimbal or something to really get some steady footage, maybe shoot something, you know, nice. So it might be a smaller size video, maybe. Same thing with the 1080p video, and then with the camera test videos, just gonna be taking pictures and what the cameras are doing, both in terms of the wide, the ultra wide, and the telephoto, and the selfie camera, which is a 10 megapixel camera. So be on the lookout for those videos. I'm trying to put this video and put that work into this phone. The deal I got on this, I only spent $250 or $260 after taxes. And I got the Galaxy Watch Act 2, which I love, and the S21. That was part of the pre-order offer or deal that Samsung had going on, which ended on the 27th. So I hope some of you guys were able to take advantage of that. Let me know down in the comments below. If you didn't, at least the phone's only $800 and you can still trade in towards it to knock that price down. So it's definitely a better buy over the S20 from that perspective. Hopefully you guys are able to experience the same level of excitement and joy that I'm currently experiencing just 2 days in. Now, with that in mind, the S21 Ultra has been the talk of the town, and that's because it's so much better than the S20 Ultra. It looks so much better than the S20 Ultra, and it has an S Pen to accessorize it with. With that being said, Marquez or MKBHD thinks that Samsung will still drop a Note this year. I have been of the mind for the last 2 years saying that Samsung is done with the Note series. We saw that officially last year. Well, I should say unofficially because it did drop a Note. But we saw that unofficially last year in that the Note series was literally just the S20 Ultra with an S Pen and square. There was really no difference between the S20 Ultra and the S20 Note. Or the Note 20, my bad. The Note 20 Ultra was no different than the S20 Ultra. And then the Note 20 was a flimsy fluke. Like, polycarbonate bag, $1,000, bad decision on Samsung's part. So we saw that they really didn't care about the Note series last year, and that's because they knew the S Pen was going to come along with the S21 Ultra, and you can accessorize it, and with cases you can attach the pen into the case to then carry it around as opposed to just having it somewhere around you, and that's the problem that they're probably going to solve next year. With that being said, I disagree with MKBHD from the perspective that the Note is done. There is no more Notes. They can include the S Pen with the Fold series, and maybe they called a Fold a Note, but the Note as we know it is done. Thus, the S Pen being with the S21 Ultra, which is also very good because why limit at that point? As soon as you can work out a digitizer for the foldable displays, we're gonna see an S Pen with the Fold series. The S21 Ultra is something I think I really probably would have wanted if I could have afforded it, because they also shrunk it just a hair at 6.8 inches as opposed to the 6.9 that we saw with the S20 Ultra. And that Phantom Black was calling my name. But this phone is the bread and butter. I love the size. The S21 Plus is going to be the loser this year because there's kind of no point to it. I mean, at 6.8 inches, you might as well spend the extra $200 and get the S Pen and all the additional stuff with the S21 Ultra, as opposed to cheapening out on yourself and getting the S21 Plus. It's either the S21 or the S21 Ultra this year. Last year, the best buy was S20 Plus. The S20, of course, I liked and preferred because I like the size, but the best buy out of the three was the S20 Plus. Now, this year, it's going to be the S21 or the S21 Ultra. So I hope that also going forward, they stop dropping so many phones and they just limit it to like 2. We just need like a smaller size or compact. Crazy how we're calling a 6.2 inch compact or sub 6 inch phone a compact phone nowadays, but you should just have a 6.2 and maybe like a 6.6, 6.7 inch display, and that being your Ultra or Omega, whatever you want to call it. Because 6.8 and up is really big, and a lot of people seem like they want a smaller footprint in terms of a phone. So hopefully Samsung shrinks the phones and they drop the Plus line, and it's just the initial phone and the Ultra phone, unless they change the Ultra to some new name, because I think that would make more sense, and they may ultimately see better sales, because I think this year we're gonna really see the S21 Plus suffer mightily. But that's my talk of Samsung. The last thing I want to say is condolences to LG for basically exiting the smartphone game. It honestly makes sense. As much as the LG Ring was cool, and I still want to try it, I still want to actually experience LG Wing, because I think that's a very smart concept for a phone, being able to flip up and still maintain a full screen for viewing stuff, and then having a slightly smaller screen and operations on another screen underneath it. I think that is very, very smart on them to create that. Outside of that, the V60 series, or the V series I should say, has been very stagnant from the perspective of, yes, you have your dedicated buyers or your group, much kind of like the Note fans, but that's not enough to move the needle. And you priced one of them a little bit too high. I think it was the Velvet, the LG Velvet. I think that one may have been priced a little bit too high for what you was getting. So LG's gotta, it makes sense for them to exit the smartphone game and really the tablet game, because the G pads really only, like, I've seen them come to T-Mobile, but then nothing talk of the town like Samsung or Apple, or even a few years ago Huawei, right? I mean, Huawei's media pads were cool. I don't really hear people talk about those either. It's really just Samsung and Apple. So my condolences to LG for having to exit the game. You know, you had a good run early in your life when smartphones first became a thing, but you just couldn't keep up with competition in the market. And you know, that happens to the best of them. That really does. I mean, Sony had to quiet down with their smartphones for a minute before, you know, doing the thing with the Xperia line again. And all of those are good. I don't know if those are really moving the needle like that. I do like the Xperia Pro. That looks really good. But even with Sony, I mean, $2,500 for that phone is crazy. As much as I like it, and I would actually love to use that phone and or have it since I work with Sony's camera system anyway, that phone would be a very good complement to my production value, but justifying that kind of price, and I still don't know if Sony is as dedicated to their phones as they appear to be. So that's a problem there for Sony. And then HTC, of course, been left. I think HTC should come back with an M8 fan edition. The HTC M8 fan edition, and actually come back with the similar body style, the speakers that were so good, just all that improved, of course. But come back with fresh, modern internals and specs. Come on, man. The M8 fan edition would be amazing. That's something that HTC should look into. I mean, even the HTC 10 was cool for the most part, but again, just not really paying attention to what the market, if not wanted, satisfying the market as well as what Samsung and Apple and Xiaomi and Huawei and OnePlus has been able to do. I mean, shoot, even Poco is doing their thing. So some of these larger players, it's unfortunate to see them have to buy out like that or bow out, but it is what it is when it comes to business. But that is it for this episode of Versatile After Hours. Hope you guys appreciate and enjoyed it. Leave down comments below in regards to the S21, the S21 series, the Ultra, the Note series being gone, what I talked about in terms of LG, Sony, you know what I'm saying, HTC, anything that was discussed in here, or if you just want to express something, leave it down in the comment section below. But again, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that way you never miss my videos. That way you can sit back, relax, and see what's cracking. Again, this is a visual and audio podcast. You can catch the visuals here on YouTube, and you can catch the audio podcast on your favorite podcast platform. But your boy Versatile signing out, and until the next video, we're officially closed.